Freedom comes at a price, and in my case, it cost exactly 47 meters. It was that distance I meticulously calculated when I drew up the plans for our house. 47 meters beyond the dividing line of Pinecrest Meadows. 47 meters that would guarantee our independence from the county's most controlling homeowners association. My name is Victor Brady, and I've been an architect for almost 20 years. I can say for sure that no project has filled me with as much pride as this house. Not just because of its modern lines or its perfect integration with the natural surroundings, but because of what it represents, our little island of freedom. Subscribe to the channel and give your like to get access to more stories like this. While our neighbors inside the HOA territory have to fill out triplicate forms just to paint their houses or face absurd fines for letting the grass grow even half a centimeter too long, we enjoy the freedom to live by our own rules. Sophia, my wife, maintains a vibrant herb garden that would immediately be condemned by the association's aesthetic norms. Lucas, our 14-year-old son, can work on his robotics projects in the garage without any worries about visual pollution. And more importantly, we installed our solar panels exactly where we wanted, facing south with the perfect tilt for maximum efficiency. In the state where we live, HOAs have been waging a silent war against solar energy, using aesthetic rules as an excuse to block installations. Our house is a small victory against that outdated mentality. The doorbell rang at 9:15 on a Saturday. Through the peephole, I saw a woman, about 50 years old, with perfectly styled blonde hair and an impeccable beige blazer. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Brady? I'm Heather Bettany, the new president of the Pinecrest Meadows Homeowners Association." I politely explained that our property was outside the HOA's jurisdiction, something she surely already knew. Her smile didn't falter. "I'm well aware of that, Mr. Brady. I'm just here as a concerned neighbor. Your solar panels are, well, pretty visible from the community entrance. We're receiving complaints about their visual impact." Sophia appeared beside me, arms crossed. "Visual impact? You'd rather deal with the environmental impact of continuing to rely on fossil fuels." Heather completely ignored Sophia and handed me a folder. "Just a few recommendations to help your property blend in better with our community. I'm sure that as an architect you value aesthetics." I quickly flipped through the recommendations, a 12-page document detailing everything from the placement of the solar panels to the allowed height for shrubs and the appropriate color for our mailbox. "Ms. Bettany, I appreciate your visit, but as I mentioned, we're not under the HOA's jurisdiction. For now, Mr. Brady. But we're working to expand the association's boundaries. The county is quite receptive to the idea." She smiled again. "Think of it as a chance to voluntarily comply before it becomes mandatory." After she left, Sophia clutched the document as if it were toxic. "That's a thinly veiled threat." "She doesn't have any power here," I replied, though an uncomfortable feeling lingered. 2 weeks later, Lucas and I were getting our robot ready for the state competition. Sophia was helping us pack the equipment into my red Ford F-150 pickup, which Heather had explicitly mentioned was incompatible with the sophisticated image of Pinecrest Meadows. "Do you have everything? The extra charger? The spare batteries?" Sophia checked through the mental list for the third time. "Mom, relax. We already checked everything," Lucas replied, rolling his eyes with that teenage impatience only parents know. I kissed Sophia, promising to call as soon as we got to the hotel. "It's just 2 nights. You can enjoy some time to yourself. I'm going to practice Tai Chi in the garden and watch those documentaries you two hate," she joked. "Win that trophy for me." On the way to the competition, I got a text from Heather, "Noticed your truck isn't parked in front of your house anymore. Good aesthetic decision." I decided to ignore the taunt and focused on the trip with Lucas. If I had known what Heather was planning, I would have never left Sophia alone. It was Monday, around 3 in the afternoon. I had called Sophia moments earlier to share that Lucas had made it to the finals of the competition. She was in the garden, practicing Tai Chi barefoot as she did every afternoon since she quit her job as a martial arts instructor to focus on our family. Later, Sophia told me exactly how it all went down. She had heard the sound of a tow truck and saw 3 men around our work truck parked at the garage entrance. One of them was wearing a reflective vest with Pinecrest Security printed on it, even though our community had never had its own security team. "Can I help you?" Sophia asked calmly as she walked over, still barefoot. "Removal order," replied the tallest, handing her a document that looked official. "Vehicle in violation of the community's aesthetic code." Sophia examined the paper. "This is fake. We're not under the HOA's jurisdiction, and you know that. We're just doing our job." "Step away from the vehicle," said the second man, moving toward the tow truck. That's when Sophia grabbed her cell phone and started recording. "I'm documenting this. You're trying to steal our private property with forged documents." The third man, visibly nervous, made the mistake of trying to snatch her phone. Even though she was barefoot and almost 20 centimeters shorter than him, Sophia reacted instantly. Years of martial arts training turned her into a whirlwind of precise moves. In seconds, the man was on the ground, groaning and clutching his wrist. The other two advanced at the same time. Sophia dodged the first by using his own momentum to throw him off balance, while she blocked the second strike, ending in an arm lock. The man dropped to his knees, and the third, who had gotten up, stepped back visibly frightened. "My wife is a black belt in 3 different martial arts," she said calmly, still recording. "Now, who sent you here?" The answer came in the form of a white SUV screeching to a stop at the entrance. Heather Bettany stepped out, visibly disturbed by the scene, 2 men on the ground and a third backing away near the tow truck, all confronted by a barefoot woman who didn't seem even slightly out of breath. "What's going on here?" Heather demanded as if she had any authority. "Exactly what I was about to ask," Sophia replied, keeping the camera on them. "These men tried to steal our property with fake documents. Did you send them?" "They are authorized agents of the association to remove elements that violate our community standards," Heather declared, nervously adjusting her blazer. At that moment, 2 police cars arrived after responding to the emergency call that Sophia had made before she started recording. Officers Garcia and Foster quickly assessed the situation. When they saw Sophia's video and examined the forged documents, the officers' expressions hardened. "You do know that forging official documents is a crime?" asked Officer Garcia. "And ordering the removal of private property without legal authorization amounts to attempted theft. This is absurd." "I'm just protecting the interests and visual harmony of our community," Heather protested, her voice rising. "Your property is outside the association's jurisdiction," replied Foster, checking records on his tablet. "And even if it weren't, HOAs don't have the authority to remove private vehicles without a court order." As the police handcuffed the 3 men, Heather turned pale when she realized she was also being detained. "This is a terrible mistake. I'm a respected community leader." "You're a leader who's just been caught on camera committing multiple crimes," replied Sophia calmly, the phone still recording every second of that extraordinary afternoon. "I never planned on becoming an internet sensation at 40. That chaotic afternoon was only the beginning of something much bigger than our family could ever have imagined. When Lucas and I got home on Tuesday night, thrilled about our second-place finish at the state robotics competition, Sophia greeted us with an expression that mixed triumph and disbelief. Our living room table was covered with papers, police reports, legal documents, and a printed view count that kept rising with every refresh. 1,600,000 views, she said, turning the laptop so that we could see. In less than 24 hours. The video Sophia had recorded, showing her confrontation with the men sent by Heather and the police later arriving, had been shared by one of our neighbors. In just a few hours, it exploded on social media under the hashtag #BarefootMomVSHOA. Lucas, of course, was ecstatic. "Mom, you're literally everywhere. My friends can't stop sharing it." Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop ringing from news networks, morning shows, and podcasts asking for interviews. "They are treating this as a symbol," Sophia explained, showing the articles on news websites. "It's not just about a truck or a condo rule anymore." She was right. The incident had hit home with the American public, a growing discontent with the overreach of HOAs, especially when it comes to sustainable initiatives like our solar panels. The next morning, we got a call from CNN for a live interview. We decided to do it, but only on one condition. We wanted to focus not just on the physical confrontation but on the larger conflict over property rights and sustainability. During the interview, Sophia spoke with the same calm she'd shown facing those three men. It's not just about defending our property. It's about defending our right to choose a more sustainable lifestyle without facing persecution. Our solar panels were the real target. The reporter sounded surprised. You're saying that the attempt to tow your truck was really retribution for your energy choices? I showed the documents Heather had left weeks earlier. These are recommendations to devote 3 whole pages to the aesthetic incompatibility of our solar panels. Our truck is only mentioned in passing. Ms. Bettany made it clear that she considered our energy independence a bigger problem than any parked vehicle. Over the next few days, the media narrative began to shift. What started as a story about a ninja mom transformed into a national debate about the limits of HOA power and its role in blocking environmental initiatives. We received messages of support from across the country, from frustrated homeowners battling their own associations, from attorneys specializing in property rights, and from environmental activists who saw our situation as emblematic of a broader problem. A week after the incident, YouTube notified us that the video had exceeded 20 million views. National newspapers published investigative reports on Heather Bettany, revealing a history of controversial decisions in her corporate career before she retired and channeled her energy into leading the HOA. The most surprising part was the reaction from the residents of Pinecrest Meadows themselves. An online petition, started by our closest neighbors in the community, demanded Heather's immediate resignation as president and a complete overhaul of the association's policies, especially those related to solar energy and other sustainable initiatives. It's as if we've opened the floodgates, I commented to Sophia as we read yet another stack of supportive letters. So many people feel the same way but are too afraid to speak up. People are tired of being controlled in the name of aesthetic harmony, she replied. Especially when that aesthetic comes at the cost of the planet's future. Media coverage peaked when a national architecture magazine published a 5-page article about our house, highlighting how its design not only met high aesthetic standards but also incorporated sustainability principles that HOAs often blocked. Lucas, even though he was initially excited about his sudden fame, soon started feeling the weight of constant attention. Reporters showed up at his school door, and classmates who barely noticed him before now wanted selfies with the son of the ninja mom. We even decided to temporarily hire private security just so he could continue his routine normally. Amid all this turmoil, an unexpected opportunity came along. Isabella Russo, a renowned attorney specializing in property rights, contacted us after watching our CNN interview. What happened to you isn't just illegal, it's emblematic of a systemic problem, she explained during our first meeting. And I think we have an extremely strong case. Isabella Russo's office exuded confidence, dark leather furniture, bookshelves that reached the ceiling, and a panoramic view of downtown. The 55-year-old attorney greeted us with a firm handshake and led us into a conference room where 3 assistants were already waiting with neatly stacked documents. Let's get straight to the point, Isabella began, adjusting her black-framed glasses. What Heather Bettany and the HOA did crosses several legal lines. We're talking forgery of documents, attempted theft, trespassing, and possibly conspiracy. Sophia and I exchanged glances, still processing the gravity of the situation. What exactly is our legal position here? I asked. Isabella smiled for the first time. Extraordinarily strong. Sophia's video is irrefutable evidence, and the police investigation uncovered emails between Heather and those 3 men outlining the plan. She literally wrote, "We need to teach the Bradys a lesson about who really controls this area." One of the assistants slid a folder over to us. More importantly, we discovered that this isn't the first time Heather used intimidating tactics. 7 homeowners in Pinecrest Meadows have faced similar, though less dramatic, situations in the last 8 months since she took over as president. 7 cases. Sophia was shocked. Why didn't anyone speak up before? Fear, Isabella replied simply. HOAs have significant power over property values and residents' quality of life. Most people prefer not to risk a war with the association. You're different because you're outside their jurisdiction. Over the next few days, Isabella and her team meticulously built our case. They discovered that Heather had used HOA funds to pay the three men, turning the incident into misappropriation of funds. They also found evidence that she hired a surveyor in an attempt to redefine the condominium boundaries specifically to include our property. 2 weeks after our first meeting, Isabella filed a comprehensive lawsuit against the Pinecrest Meadows HOA and against Heather Bettany personally. The lawsuit included charges of attempted theft, forgery of documents, defamation, misuse of association funds, and violation of civil rights. News of the lawsuit exploded locally and quickly reached national headlines. Our house became a media hub, and Isabella had to hold a press conference to manage the constant flow of questions. This case represents a turning point in the relationship between homeowners associations and residents, she declared to a sea of microphones and cameras. HOAs were created to maintain community standards, not to operate like suburban feudal kingdoms that persecute homeowners for personal and sustainable choices. As the case progressed, we received unexpected support. The American Solar Energy Association filed a motion to participate as an amicus curiae, arguing that our case had national implications for renewable energy adoption in residential areas. The first day in court was surreal. The courtroom was packed not only with the press but also with dozens of homeowners from Pinecrest Meadows and other HOA-governed communities. Many wore buttons featuring the symbol of a solar panel and the phrase, "Energy Freedom." Heather appeared with 3 corporate lawyers, all in impeccable suits and with severe expressions. She held her chin high as she walked down the central corridor, though her eyes betrayed tension. Her legal team had repeatedly tried to dismiss the case or force a private settlement, but Isabella remained steadfast. "We want a clear legal precedent," she explained to us before the hearing. "A quiet settlement would only benefit you. A public verdict can change the rules for millions of homeowners." The trial lasted 3 exhausting weeks. Heather's side argued that she was merely protecting the community's aesthetic interests, and that the men sent to tow our truck had exceeded their instructions. Her defense tried to portray Sophia as overly aggressive in her response, arguing that the injuries inflicted on the 3 men were disproportionate. That argument collapsed when Isabella played the full video in slow motion, with a martial arts expert testifying that Sophia had used only the minimum force necessary, with techniques designed to disable without causing permanent harm. The decisive moment came when Isabella presented a former HOA board member who had resigned in protest against Heather's tactics. He revealed a long-term plan to force out undesirable elements from the neighborhood, mainly homeowners who prioritized sustainability over traditional aesthetics. Ms. Bettany often referred to the Bradys as those solar hippies, the ex-board member testified. And she said in multiple meetings that she would make our lives so difficult that we'd eventually have to sell our property. Sitting next to Sophia in the courtroom, I realized that this case had turned into something much bigger than our family or our truck. We were at the center of a national debate about the limits of community power versus individual freedoms, especially when those freedoms aligned with broader environmental goals. The night before the verdict, our family gathered on the porch, watching the sunset reflect off our controversial solar panels. Lucas, who had remained remarkably resilient throughout the process, broke the silence. "Regardless of tomorrow's outcome, I'm proud of us," he said, with a maturity that caught me by surprise. "We stuck to our principles even when it would have been easier to back down." Sophia smiled and tousled her hair. "Sometimes you've just got to stand up for what you believe in, even if it means facing 3 men barefoot." Subscribe to the channel and give your like to get access to more stories like this. We laughed together as the sun set, illuminating our 47 meters of hard-won freedom, a small bastion of independence that, by a strange twist of fate, helped redefine the meaning of community in our little corner of the world. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Sophia was gripping my hand so tightly that I almost lost feeling in my fingers. Lucas, sitting stiffly between us, kept his eyes fixed on Judge Margaret Dawson, a woman in her 60s known for her unwavering impartiality. The judge adjusted her glasses and began reading the decision in a firm, deliberate voice. In the case of Brady versus Pinecrest Meadows Homeowners Association and Heather Bettany, this court has reached a decision. She paused, surveying the room. The evidence presented shows beyond any doubt a series of premeditated and illegal actions orchestrated by the defendant, Heather Bettany, who abused her position as president of the Homeowners Association. I felt a shiver run through Sophia's body. Isabella, seated in front of us, maintained a neutral expression, though her shoulders relaxed slightly. This court finds in favor of the plaintiffs on all counts, the judge continued. The Pinecrest Meadows Homeowners Association and Heather Bettany are hereby held responsible for the material, emotional, and reputational damages caused to the Brady family. A murmur swept through the room, quickly silenced by the judge's gavel. The defendants are ordered to pay compensation in the total amount of $750,000, of which $250,000 are punitive damages, intended to ensure that this kind of tyrannical behavior does not recur. On the far side of the aisle, Heather visibly paled. Her lead lawyer whispered urgently in her ear, but she seemed unable to process his words. In addition to financial compensation, the judge continued, this court issues a permanent restraining order prohibiting Heather Bettany from holding any leadership position in homeowners associations for 10 years and orders her to complete 200 hours of community service in renewable energy and sustainability programs. Lucas nudged my arm with a small smile. The irony of the verdict did not escape anyone in the room. Heather, who had tried to eliminate our solar panels, was now forced to promote similar initiatives. Finally, Judge Dawson concluded, the court orders a full, independent audit of the Pinecrest Meadows Homeowners Association and the implementation of new governance guidelines that ensure transparency and respect for the individual rights of homeowners, especially regarding sustainable initiatives. With one final strike of her gavel, it was over. We had won in a way more definitive than we ever imagined possible. The following hours passed in a whirlwind of hugs, tears, and interviews with the press. Isabella shone as she explained the broader implications of our case to reporters gathered on the courthouse steps. This decision sets a crucial precedent for homeowners everywhere, she declared. It reaffirms that while HOAs are important for maintaining certain community standards, they cannot operate like feudal kingdoms where individual rights are subordinated to tyrannical aesthetic preferences. In the week after the verdict, the repercussions spread like ripples across a lake. The entire board of the Pinecrest Meadows HOA resigned amid an exodus of outraged residents. A special election installed a new council committed to reform, led by Martin Chen, an environmental science teacher who had lived in the community for 15 years and who had quietly installed a rainwater harvesting system in his yard, defying the old rules. Heather disappeared from public view. Neighbors later mentioned that she had put her house up for sale and was planning to move to another state. In her only public statement after the trial, she insisted that she had been misunderstood, and that her actions were only meant to preserve the aesthetic quality that all homeowners expected when investing in Pinecrest Meadows. The National HOA Association issued new guidelines recommending that all homeowners associations review their policies regarding renewable energy and sustainability. HOAs must evolve to reflect contemporary values, including the growing concern for environmental responsibility, the document stated. Perhaps the most surprising development came 2 weeks after the trial when we received a call from the governor's office. A new state law was being proposed, informally nicknamed the Brady Law, that would explicitly limit the power of HOAs to block or restrict renewable energy installations for purely aesthetic reasons. Your case exposed a legal gap that needs filling, explained the legislative aide. We'd like you to testify at the next public hearing. In the midst of all these institutional changes, our family was trying to process the personal impact of everything that had happened. The compensation would easily solve our immediate financial problems. Lucas's college education was secured, and Sophia could reopen her martial arts studio, a dream she had set aside years ago. But the money came with complications. We received dozens of requests for donations from environmental organizations, property rights advocacy groups, and even individual families facing their own battles with abusive HOAs. After many discussions, we decided to create a foundation, the Brady Freedom Foundation, dedicated to providing legal assistance to homeowners facing conflicts with HOAs, especially in cases related to sustainable initiatives. If our story ends up filling our pockets, we will have missed an opportunity, Sophia explained during our first meeting with the lawyer who would help set up the foundation. We want to create something that lasts. One evening, while we were organizing papers related to the foundation on our dining table, Lucas appeared looking thoughtful. He had been quieter since the trial, processing everything in his own way. "You know what's crazy about all this?" he asked, sitting with us. "If Miss Bettany had just left us alone, none of this would have happened. She was so obsessed with controlling something beyond her reach that she ended up losing everything." Sophia smiled. "There's a lesson there about power and obsession. And about how one barefoot woman can bring down an empire," I added, winking at my wife. 6 months passed since the historic verdict. Our life settled into a new rhythm, different yet still recognizable. The house I built as a refuge from outside interference now symbolized something bigger for so many, and we had to adapt to that reality. The first visible change was the installation of a forged iron gate at the entrance to our property, not out of hostility, but for practical necessity. In the weeks following the trial, we saw a constant stream of onlookers, supporters, and occasional critics slowly driving by or even stopping for photos. To preserve some privacy, we added the gate, discreet camera system, and a simple sign that read, "Private property. Visits by appointment only." But even as we physically isolated our house, we expanded our presence in other ways. The Brady Freedom Foundation grew quickly, taking on dozens of cases from around the country. Isabella Russo agreed to lead our legal advisory board, working pro bono to guide our growing team. Sophia discovered a new vocation in all of this. Her skills as a martial arts instructor surprisingly translated well to advocacy, the same discipline, focus, and ability to spot vulnerabilities. She emerged as the public face of the foundation, traveling around the country to speak at conferences about property rights. "I never wanted this role," she admitted one night, exhausted after returning from an event in Chicago. "But when I see the relief in people's eyes when they realize they are not alone battling these institutions, I know I'm exactly where I should be." Lucas, now 15, found his own way to process our sudden fame. His robotics club developed a project for the state science fair, a system of automated solar panels that constantly adjusted to maximize energy capture while keeping a discrete visual profile. "It's to show that sustainability and aesthetics can coexist," he proudly explained during the presentation that won him first place. Ms. Bettany was creating a false dichotomy. As for me, I channeled the experience into my architectural work. I began to specialize in homes that seamlessly incorporated sustainable elements with their surroundings. To my surprise, I received a flood of inquiries, many specifically mentioning our case as an inspiration. "I want a house like yours," became a common refrain among potential clients. Beautiful, sustainable, and respectful of property rights. We used part of the settlement to install additional solar panels and a battery storage system that allowed us to go completely off-grid. On sunny days, we even generated enough excess energy to power 2 additional houses. The irony didn't escape us: the more Heather had tried to eliminate our solar panels for being visually intrusive, the more prominent and influential they became. Now, they were almost a local landmark, a symbol of a victory for personal freedom and sustainability. In Pinecrest Meadows, changes ran just as deep. The new HOA board, led by Martin Chen, completely rewrote the association's rules. The new document, much shorter than its predecessor, began with a statement of principles: "This association exists to foster a harmonious and sustainable community while respecting the individual rights of homeowners and maintaining reasonable standards." The most notable part was the section on renewable energy, which now actively encouraged the installation of solar panels, rainwater harvesting systems, and low-water use gardens. The association even created a fund to help subsidize sustainable conversions for residents with limited resources. "They're calling it the Brady effect," Martin commented during a community barbecue where we were invited as guests of honor. Homeowners associations across the state are reviewing their rules, realizing they need to evolve or face similar revolts. As for Heather, we eventually learned that she had moved to a gated community in another state, ironically, one without an HOA. Her 200 hours of community service in renewable energy programs turned out to be transformative for her, according to her program supervisor. After completing her required hours, she continued as a volunteer, apparently finding genuine purpose in the work. "People can change," Sophia observed when we learned of that. "Sometimes they just need a nudge in the right direction," even if that nudge comes in the form of a court order. On one particularly pleasant autumn afternoon, I sat on the porch with a glass of lemonade, watching Lucas work on his latest robotics project on the lawn. Sophia joined me, as always barefoot, resting her feet on the railing. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked suddenly. "Building the house here knowing what was coming?" She considered the question for a long moment, the last rays of sun reflecting off the solar panels that had sparked all of this. "Not for a second," she finally replied. "Some battles have to be fought, not just for us but for everyone who comes after. And besides," she added with that smile that still disarms me after 20 years of marriage, "how many people can say they took down a suburban tyranny completely barefoot?" Subscribe to the channel and give your like to get access to more stories like this. We laughed together as the sun set, illuminating our 47 meters of hard-won freedom, a small bastion of independence that, by a strange twist of fate, helped redefine the meaning of community in our little corner of the world.